All right. This thing says we're live, so let's get to it. Greetings, everybody, at the Speam Engine 420-hour variety show featuring the lesser Angry Old Hoops. How are you, sir? Guess they don't answer questions where you're from. All right. Moving on.
This is gonna be a fucking disaster.
Yeah, I already told you what kind of level I'm on.
So Speam Engine is hosting today and decided to get fucked up first. All right.
No, it'll happen. It'll happen as the show transitions, not before. That's the beauty of it.
You got a lot of people in the chat. You want to greet some of your viewers?
Let me look at that. Oh crap. We do. I do. Thank you. We do. I'm gonna say we do. Shout out to Westside, Tyler Jennings, Machiavelli, Jacob Bombay, Renee 43, as always, appreciated. Trey, Cameron Peterson. Yeah, racism being alive and well. We're gonna probably not help the cause, but at least point out some I have kids around. I'm trying to watch my language. Some ill-advised points about it. Rookie, what up? AOH, how are you, sir?
Well, Tyler Jennings says that the thumbnail is different, and I haven't seen it yet. What did you create?
I don't even remember. I think it was.
Don't lie.
No. I think it was Stephen A. Smith sitting on a fence, being a fence rider, and it's just something about. I forget which one I used.
If you put people's isn't that how Dark got in trouble, putting people's faces on things? Better be careful.
I'm not monetized though, so I think I'm fine, right?
I don't. No, they can still delete your channel.
Oh, well, listen. I'm a nobody. I'm a little fish in a big pond, so they're not looking for me. Ricky says Skip Bayless is on the thumbnail. Oh, yeah. I remember that one. I put a little word bubble talking about Skip Bayless talking about LeBron having to be sedated because he says that like once every 2 or 3 days at least. So I called that out. But I just want to kind of get into it. Well, what did you think about last night's game, real quick, before we get into the real life stuff?
I must have been in a nice mood because I posted something nice about Anthony Edwards, even though he got his butt kicked. And I'll say something nice about Shea. His mid-range jumper is pretty nice, but he sure spends a lot of time on the floor.
They were getting tired of him. They were just pushing him to the ground at one point. Is that post you had about being happy that AE was going to the paint, going to the bucket, and how proud you were that he was on some man stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah.
I posted.
That was good to see.
I did a short of Shea traveling, and it got blocked, which is interesting on a short. Shorts don't usually get flagged. Trey says he's been waiting for 12 minutes. Hey, man, I'm not. That's because we have a black man hosting today. He can't be on time.
And that segue leads us into exactly why AOH needs to be taught these things, because he is just so situationally unaware. It's kind of scary.
Taught? No, I didn't expect you to be on time. I know what black people are like.
See, and we're not operating on a 3-strike rule with him either, because he has that afro, so it gives him a little bit of grace. Tell you what, I'm going to go into this Stephen A. video real quick because he's an embarrassment, and I want to point out several things that are embarrassing about him. Just give me a second here. Share screen. Also share.
Rookie wants to know if you're going to take callers. What do you think?
I don't see why not. I mean, depending on how the show goes, I think, yeah, why not? Because we didn't take any the other day. So yeah, let's do it. Let me
yeah, what do you got for us?
Let me make sure this works first. All right, so I just want to make sure. Can you see the Stephen A. reacts to Ryan Clark versus Robert Griffin III beef? Is that what you see?
No, you have to put it on stage. You have to add to stage. Mouse over it and click add to stage. There you go.
How about that? How about that? All right. And I just want to double check the audio real quick. Okay. And I want to make sure that people can see my picture and not have to interpret it like they did with yours, with your video the other day.
Okay.
I'll get into RG3's assertion.
Okay. So can you hear his annoying voice?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're good.
Are you gonna do an intro or just go?
Yeah. Well, so just so you're aware, this is Stephen A. covering the RG3 and Ryan Clark quote unquote beef, which is an embarrassment as far as I'm concerned, of epic proportions, no matter whether you're black, white, purple, green, blue, whatever. It's just an embarrassing thing for two grown men to do, understanding that I'm also going to be a hypocrite and make the problem way worse by highlighting it. I just feel that these are the guys that are on TV and these are the guys that make millions of dollars. And while they hide behind this shield of promoting, a certain level of positivity or a certain level of black camaraderie, what have you, they're also perpetuating all of these stereotypes and pushing these issues further by using just a lot of very specific language. And I'll point that out as we go. But give me a second here.
Y'all remember that? She got filed so hard.
So this is RG3's first. This is what RG3 was saying.
Okay.
Angel Reese tried to hit her. But if it wasn't for Aaliyah Boston putting her arms in the way, Angel Reese would not be playing basketball anymore because she was going to sucker punch Caitlin Clark. Now, you tell me a time when you've seen somebody get fouled on a basketball court in a professional league where they tried to almost sucker punch somebody that they were friends with.
Why you got a family roaming around in the background?
So where was this?
So that plays a huge part into this. I'm gonna keep going. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Type of reaction last year when Angel Reese got chokeslammed by Alyssa Thomas of the Connecticut Sun. Y'all remember that? She got fouled so hard, they kicked Aaliyah Thomas out the game with a flagrant 2 foul.
Did you see it?
What did Angel Reese do?
No, I don't watch women's basketball. This is a joke.
Nothing. She didn't get up and try to swing on her. You know why? The reaction was different because of who did it. And there is a lot of history there with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. You guys remember last year when Angel Reese?
All right, so that's the gist of it. And he's irritating too. So I'm just going to stop it there. So that's RG3's take. He's taking this whole, if nobody had got in front of Angel Reese, she would have sucker punched Caitlin Clark, blah, blah, blah. So
how long has RG3 how long has he been podcasting?
I don't know, because I know he was doing. That's a good question. I don't know.
I guess if you're breathing, you have a podcast nowadays, right?
I mean, look at me. What it shows is I definitely need to work on my background and just my overall appearance, because it's a lot of fine tuning that goes on. And his family being in the background was a little bit weird too. But
it just doesn't seem professional to me.
No, but here it gets worse. Hold on.
First, I wanted to show y'all Ryan Clark's response to what y'all just heard RG3 say. This is on the Pivot podcast. Take a look at what Ryan Clark's response was.
When RG3 jumps on to the hate train or to the angry train and now follows along with what we saw from Keith Olbermann, what we saw from Dave Portnoy, as they poured on to Angel Reese to make her the villain in Caitlin Clark's heroic or hero story.
Right.
The one thing we know about RG3 is he's not having conversations at his home about what Black women have to endure in this country, about what young Black women and athletes like Angel Reese have had to deal with being on the opposite side of Caitlin Clark's rise and ascension into stardom. If you're RG3.
So what do you think about this? I want to pause it just so I can go back to make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat. What do you think about that statement?
I think whether it's true or not, he's kind of changing topics. Like, do we need to look at the history of Black women in the country to justify Ryan Clark's point? I mean, why does Ryan Clark need to talk? Huh?
It would seem like a bit of a reach, right?
What? I'm having a hard time being interested. I have to admit, I'm feeling ashamed that we're watching Stephen A. Smith talk about two other people talking about something, and now we're talking about that. And I gotta say, I'm embarrassed. It's people talking about someone who's talking about other people talking. And then Ryan Clark. Okay, let me see if I understand correctly. So Ryan Clark is mad at RG3 because RG3 didn't consider what black women have gone through when he said, hey, Angel Reese reacted in one way for one person and not a way for someone else.
So you feel that second and maybe third hand embarrassment that you just cited, and that you feel that, right?
I do.
Okay. The statement you just said is 100% accurate as to what's taking place here. That's how far, and that's why I wanted to show this to you. This is how far sports media has fallen. This is the island that these guys are on, these sports professionals are on.
Whatever the argument
that we watch.
Whatever the argument is, I wish people could successfully argue their case without going all the way over here. And that's the same thing we say LeBron fans are guilty of. Like, they won't address the question at hand. They'll start talking about something else. And look, it does not mean that Ryan Clark doesn't have a point in some context, but not in this context.
So I stopped it there because, believe it or not, it gets more cringy than that.
Great.
You are the perfect person to show this stuff to.
Yeah, you want to fuck my day up.
When is the last time within your household you've had a conversation about what she's dealing with? You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you've been married to white women. You haven't had opportunities to have those conversations to educate you on what they're feeling, what black women deal with, what they're seeing when they think of a young Angel Reese. And the whole time that he's mimicking Angel Reese and bobbing his head and moving his neck while he's doing this whole piece, his wife is in the back amening and clapping. And so to me, it's just another situation that now this young lady has to deal with.
Whoa, that's a little bit deep. And
so Stephen A. Smith is such a physical specimen. I had to stop it there. It was very imposing. What was your question?
Well, he said that RG3 was imitating Angel Reese. I didn't pick up on that. Is that true?
No, I think he was saying, so I stopped it at that point, but he was mimicking Angel Reese getting up and being fired up and wanting to fight. And I guess that mimicry was enough to have Ryan Clark all of a sudden think that he just like you said, go completely left and take it to a place that did need to be taken, because we're initially you're talking about sports, right? You're talking about two athletes that don't like each other, but now it turns into this whole other thing because his wife happens to be white and she's in the background, and Ryan Clark has an issue with that, and he must have just watched The Color Purple or Roots or something, because
he was white.
His wife, RG3's wife, is white. Okay, and
I couldn't tell
that. Well, because you don't look at stuff like that because you're not crazy, right? And that's the level that it gets taken to. So you have Stephen A. Smith butting his head in and having his take on it. And I don't want to give him too much airtime, but RG3's response, I'm going to just go up to here. RG3 acts like a victim. He acts like I'm not even doing a good job explaining how sad it is. Hold on.
And I'll get into that as
always been off limits
to having crossed a line there, especially Mr. RG3 himself, who did not take kindly to what y'all just heard, posting another video in response to RC. Take a look.
But Ryan, you crossed the line, man.
Oh, this is pathetic.
You made it personal and some. I really believe there should be no space in sports media for personal attacks.
Real quick, can I point out one thing that I just noticed? And I think stuff's starting to kick in. His family was not in the background for this video.
What's on his wall?
It looks like trading cards are popping. What are those bobblehead figures pop figures, I think they're called. That's what it looks like. But nah, he didn't bring his family out for the second video.
I've said it before. But certainly personal attacks against wife and children have always been off limits. Ryan, you attacked me and my family in a public forum.
Stop.
On a level.
Stop.
That shows just.
This doesn't even feel real to me. This sounds.
Thank you.
This just seems like a Jerry Springer show.
Or like a sketch, like an SNL sketch, right?
Yeah, I just feel like this is what sports TV has become, and this is why it feels so gross about it. That we are like, who was it? Cameron Peterson that criticized us even talking about the topic.
Yeah.
Well, look, if you approach the topic correctly, maybe you would have some insight that could do some good. But if indeed we're just continuing to perpetuate the stupidity that these guys are doing, especially if it's nothing but scripted. If it's scripted, it means we are doing exactly what they wanted them to do. They got us. They got you. They got you to react. You wanted me to react, and it's not even a reaction to something real. Possibly.
I agree with what you're saying. However, I think that we can have this discussion in a constructive manner in the sense of pointing out, again, how we talked about yesterday, the separation between politics and sports, and how journalists find a way to manipulate the two and mesh the two together when it's not even organic. Rookie asks,
that's RG3 from the Commanders?
Yeah.
He looks different.
Well, by different, if you mean broken, yeah, sure. Here's my thing. The reason I think it might not be scripted is because I think you have to be a really, really low person to have a script or to have an act like this, but also involve your family. I think it's one thing if it's just
was he just being unprofessional and didn't realize his kid was wandering around in the back and she was lounging, or do you think he did it on purpose? Because if he did it on purpose, then he should have doubled down and kept her in the picture this time. I don't know.
That's a great question.
What are we talking about?
It does seem unprofessional. I will say that to have your family just chilling in the background and have your kids walk around in the background, right? I don't think it's scripted though. These two guys don't like each other, and again, the reason I want to call attention to it is Ryan Clark is a known race baiter, and and even as a Steelers guy, it gets frustrating seeing it happen so often without any opposition, without another person in the room to say, "Wait a second, there's no reason for race to even cross this threshold." Stephen A, and I'm paraphrasing here, his response was basically, if you have something to say, why aren't you saying it to each other? Blah, blah, blah. The irony is, like you said, if he wanted to say that to either of them, he could have sent them an email, a text, whatever other social platforms, poking is. All of this could have taken place behind the scenes, but it didn't. And this is the most volatile I've ever seen the sports landscape. And I'd like to be a part of the force that combats that. You know what I mean? Because again, we're not having this conversation. Like I said, if Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese aren't button heads in college, you know what I mean?
Why don't you ask your viewers, the people in the chat, if they think us dissecting this can lead to something good, or if they think that we've just been tricked?
I'd love to hear. I'm guessing you're leaning more on the we've been tricked and we're just perpetuating the issue.
Can I share?
We all say me.
Can I share? Huh? I'm trying to let you be in control because this is your show, you're hosting. So I'm calling them your viewers. I have this in my members only section. And I apologize to you members for wasting your time. Just kidding.
Why do I keep doing this to myself?
I want to share something that's been on my mind with Kendrick Perkins. And Kendrick Perkins seeming like he was baiting people. You know how it's become a war. It's like what was that douchey vampire teenager series, and they had Team Edward. They had the vampire side and the werewolf side.
Twilight.
Yeah, and everybody got into choosing sides. And now we've got this Team Jokic and Team Shea thing going on.
Oh. And
the thing is, Kendrick Perkins started his monologue by saying, Are we sure Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league?
Gosh.
No, wait a minute. That part's triggering some people. Some people are already triggered because it's Jokic and because it's Perkins saying it. But it's reasonable. You don't have to be sure who the best player is. But then he puts the knife in and twists it because he says, because I'm pretty sure LeBron James is the best player. And that's where people like me just like, oh, you fucking son of a bitch.
When was this?
You're not aware of this?
No, was this today?
Kendrick Perkins was saying that LeBron James was the best player in the league. He didn't even mention Shea. He jumped over everybody and put LeBron at the top.
Was this today?
No. This was when they were still in the playoffs. For that short period of time that the Lakers were in the playoffs.
Right. For the 5 games they were in.
But you see what I'm saying? It's like he set it up and then he was like, now I'm really gonna fucking piss people off.
He is so gross. But again, I've said this since it happened. He should have been fired for his irresponsible journalism when he said a certain percentage of MVPs were white, which was all wrong, all error. And you should lose your job because it costs Jokic an MVP and probably money. So it's irresponsible. Shout out to McZuggins. The only good that can come from this is showing how ridiculous the circus has become. How do I highlight that?
Okay, so to that end, is us pointing out that we recognize that it's become ridiculous helpful at all? Or do we just shut up about it and hope it goes away by itself? What's the better approach?
If you ask me, and I want to see what the viewers have to say also, I would like to, I'm like a real hashtaggy guy lately because it seems like that's what works. I'd like to see more people in the comments of ESPN or Fox Sports and all this saying, like, stop doing this. Stop. There is a decent segment of the population that is aware of what you're trying to do and the divisiveness that you're trying to create by just pulling these differences that make no sense and have no real relevance. But it would be nice if people, or sports fans rather, if sports fans were a little bit more forward in calling it out, because at least then maybe there's a voice in the room that's like, listen, we're not all as dumb as you think. We are. And some of us are aware of what you're trying to do, and it's starting to show. What do you think about that?
Well, I want to address a viewer who asked if we're going to talk about basketball, and it's a worthy question because if we're not and they don't want to listen, then they can tune out. Does basketball make its way in here, or is this just about the absurdity of the shit going on? Either way, it's fine.
I want to talk about the Knicks. I want to talk.
There's some audio.
But yes, there will be basketball talk. In terms of basketball talk, in my mind, Halliburton is going to go off, and he's going to put his foot on the Knicks' throat. I was talking to King's Speech yesterday, and I was telling him the same exact thing. I think this him being overrated has finally gotten to a point where he can use it as fuel, and I think he's ready to ascend to that megastar level, and I think this might be it. But that being said, the Knicks in the finals would be great. Jalen Brunson is the prototypical athlete that you can see give up something in terms of his salary. And it actually turned into a benefit for the team. The money that he left on the table gave them what they have now. And you saw more stories about LeBron giving up his $3 million in salary that just went to the $4 million to Bronny. You saw more stories about him sacrificing his wages than Brunson. And Brunson, I'll tell you, man, how tall what is he listed at? 6'2", 6'3" at the most? I don't even know. It's cool. It's just cool seeing like a normal looking dude just out there busting people up. You know what I mean? He's in the paint every play, I feel like. And but again, I like Tyrese Halliburton. As I watch him play, he's offensively, he's like the complete package in terms of wanting to watch him play. I didn't pay attention to the Pacers all year, but Monroe says he's 5'10", which is wild.
What?
That's what Monroe says.
No, come on.
Can we get a confirmation on that being 5? That can't be right.
No, there's no way.
Yeah. Okay. The joke. Oh, it's a joke.
I'll say by the way that if Halliburton is as good as he's showing himself to be, that Halliburton handled not playing in the Olympics very classily.
I forgot about that.
You know, I mean, we were almost all given the impression that he wasn't very good because he didn't play. I mean, maybe it just wasn't the right matchups, but I just saw him smiling and cheering on his teammates and not, like making it about him and him being slighted. So I thought that was worth commending.
Well, not only that, he is the shining example. He's the shining beacon of how a professional handles a situation like with what happened with his father on court. And for anybody that doesn't know, his father was on the court after the Bucks game, and him and Giannis. I guess they got into it, whatever. But you had morons like Shaq saying that, I don't understand what the problem is. That's his dad, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the other people like Tyrese Halliburton who are saying, no, my dad was in the wrong. He shouldn't have been there. I don't agree with any of his methods, anything that he did. And for him to stand on that against his own father was really, really great to see. And he did it in a way that wasn't, telling your mom in front of hundreds of thousands of people, sit down and shut the hell up. So it's interesting when you can teach your parents with respect.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting that so many people explain away LeBron's pathetic behavior by him not having a father figure at home? Here's Tyrese Halliburton, who did have a father figure at home, and yet Tyrese is the one who needed to be the role model. So it just goes to show you can't always blame or lean on what you have at home. You gotta decide who you are. Period.
Right, and you can't use a blanket statement like that for every time something happens. Because we talked about John Morant the other day too, and his dad's a psychopath.
If you're going to play more of this ridiculous Jerry Springer show,
I want to get back into the races.
Right, I'm gonna have to go get another red stripe. Read some people's comments, and I'll be right back.
Get your hooray beer. Shout out to Spec for Fantasy. That's the moniker for Red Stripe, isn't it? Hooray beer. It's that Jamaican dude saying hooray beer.
Ray beer.
Hooray beer. That's the thing.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I forgot that.
Well, you're like 70. That makes sense.
But yes, it is a Jamaican beer, I guess.
Thank you for confirming that as you walk away. Appreciate that. Shout out to McZuggins. I want so badly to believe basketball reality wins in the end, but 20 years of LBJ says otherwise. So I'm not going to, I don't want to ever come off as a hypocrite or anything like that. But when I see these things take place and I see it happen so often with so little pushback, it puts me in a position where it's like, well, I at least have to try to call it out for anybody that'll listen, because it's not going to get any better. With every generation of athletes, the idea of athletics gets further and further detached from sports, which is nuts. I mean, we're living in a time where the narrative sells more than the actual sport does. And I feel like that won't change until people call it out. Rookie 305, do you think the league will get better once Balco retires? I think we're seeing that right now. Look how fun the playoffs are. He's still here. He's just not involved in the playoffs, but look how interesting it is. How many people were really checking for Minnesota to even be where they are now? If you take Anthony Edwards off that team, are they still fun to watch? Yeah, sure. But at the beginning of the season, is anybody really rooting for them? No. That Anthony Edwards should be the face of the league, but he has some maturity, he has some growing to do, and he clearly doesn't want it. Someone last night compared him to Allen Iverson in terms of his approach to the game and his public persona, and I thought that was a really, really good example, because he seems to maintain a lot of his what people would call urban upbringing or whatever, but it doesn't seem like it's manufactured. He doesn't start every sentence with how hard his life was growing up, or how difficult things have been, or the challenges he's overcome. He's just a basketball player, and that's really great to see. I just, I'm nervous because, again, he's an Adidas guy, not a Nike guy, and the NBA really doesn't push non-Nike or non-Jordan athletes to the forefront. So that makes me nervous. But I'm really excited to see him grow as a player.
Why can't Tyrese Halliburton be the face of the league?
Why can't he?
Mm-hmm.
Small market, being in Indiana, there's no way the NBA would ever let him go from being most overrated player to face of the league. And and again, I know we try not to get into race, even though that's the name of the show. But it's the same reason Steph Curry won't be the face of the league, or would never be the face of the league.
What the hell do you mean you try not to get into race? Stop it.
Yeah, I know. It's like the whole show. It's because he's lighter skinned, and this is a thing. And please argue me if I'm wrong, but because he's lighter skinned, there is a population of the NBA that is threatened by that. There is a population of the NBA that is threatened by the idea of a lighter skinned male getting preferential treatment. If you go back to 2000. Oh man. AOH, you're a Warriors guy. What year did Steph Curry really ascend? That's when he was dropping those half-court bombs against OKC, Russell Westbrook and OKC.
I'd say 2014 and then 2015.
2014, 2015. Okay. So I would say probably around 2016. Yeah, actually that makes perfect sense. 2016 Cavs. Around 2016, 2017, there started to be these stories leaking about how other players were jealous of Steph Curry being the face of the league. They felt that he had been propped up. They felt that his lighter skin was less threatening, hence he was more marketable. Of course, none of these are all Stephen A. Smith sources. None of them ever came out and identified themselves, but that was a growing sentiment. That, and plus he was with Under Armour. So, and somebody mentioned Jason Tatum in the chat. What do we got here? LJC uploads, shout out. Tatum will come back from this and win multiple championships and become the GOAT. I want to like Tatum. I really do. I really want to like him. But when he started stealing other people's game-winning speeches and also them into his own speech, it just, I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way. And he's been kind of searching for an identity since then. He's been searching for a way to stand out in Boston. And eventually him or Brown has to go. I mean, there's $2 billion in contracts between the two.
Well, there you go. Does Steph Curry need to search for an identity?
No.
Bingo. He has an identity. And if you're telling me that somebody is still searching for their identity and is also supposed to potentially be the face of the league, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Do you think that's a fair statement, though, that Jason Tatum has no identity whatsoever?
I can't speak. On Tatum.
I'll say it then. I don't think anybody on Boston has much of a personality. There are very few teams that have an identity of their own, let alone players that have an identity of their own.
The Celtics the new Celtics miniseries that Bill Simmons did?
Yeah. Well, I haven't. You've mentioned it, but
they had Jaylen Brown on it a lot, and Jaylen Brown was so melodramatic with every single fucking line of the interview. I'm like, man, we're not asking you to solve world hunger here on camera.
So Jaylen Brown he's been touted as an incredibly you'll love this, AOH, an incredibly educated black man, right? Went to a great school, has a lot in terms of civic duty and civil in fighting for civil rights, things of that nature. Every time he speaks, it's more often than not, I don't want to generalize, but I'm going to, it is speaking about some social injustice. He weaves it into basketball. That is his identity. I will give him credit, but again, it goes back to what I was saying before.
Did he study sports?
No, but that's what's been tied to him since he started speaking.
Really?
You know what I mean? So that every time you hear him speak, that's what you probably hear. And he's stuck to it. I'll give him that. But
who did you say was 5'10"?
That was a joke. Monroe said Jalen Brunson was 5'10".
Oh, I was going to say, I was about to have to say I confirmed something I shouldn't have needed to confirm. Okay.
Yeah. But to your point about being melodramatic, we're not tuning in for that. We're tuning in to watch basketball. You know what I mean? Going to the viewers' points in the beginning. But that's not what these guys have to say. But when it comes to basketball, it's crickets. Do you know what I mean? The identities that are out there, how many of them are actually known for basketball? Anthony Edwards, false identity, being called the next Michael Jordan, right? But at least you identify something with him. Oh my gosh, is that? Oh, Joker, dad bod, whatever. But a specimen in terms of a big man, right? He's basically a walking quadruple double. There's an identity to him. Luka, offensive machine, but complains a lot. There's an identity to him. LeBron, flop artist, gets every call, an identity to him. I don't know if you can name more than maybe 15 players that you can attribute something specific to them. And back in the day, I'm the guy saying back in the day now. Back in the day, you had your Penny Hardaways, right? You had your Steve Francis, and I'm just randomly naming players here. Penny Hardaway, Steve Francis, Reggie Miller, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing. All five of those players I just named off the top of my head had something specific to them that they did that most basketball fans can reference. I don't think you can do that now because a lot of these guys, they all operate from the same playbook. And if there's anybody else that anybody can think of in the chat that's currently playing that has a unique identifier or a unique theme about them, please let me know.
So we are almost an hour in already. We better get to some more of your video.
I feel like the people have spoken, and I'm all about adhering to the crowd. So
they don't want to watch it?
more. Oh, well, you don't, and you're giving me a headache.
No, do they or do they not? What did the people speak?
People can people give their shout out to Justin Messenger. Rudy Gobert has a unique identity. Yeah, he's unique.
Fucking Rudy Gobert.
Rudy Gobert. I do want to go back into the race stuff, but I don't. Rookie
your
says
show.
I watched the rest of it.
Your show.
I'm okay. I'm going to get into the part about Stephen A. that I can't stand, and I hope to be across the desk from him one day so I can tell him to shave his head. Hold on.
The size. You should have never brought up your wife. I would prefer that he not do that. But he didn't speak against her. And he never mentioned your children that I saw. He mentioned you. He questioned your authenticity, your realness, your genuineness. He was talking about you, bro. You. He was using that as an example to highlight who you are, how you think, and what may shape and formulate your thinking. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to a different subject. Oh. And we don't have to go too deep there. I'm a dude who lives and let lives.
That's not even the word.
I think Ryan Clark is too. I think RG3 is too. And you have a lot of people who don't have a problem with interracial relationships at all, and some who do. And
so I'm going to stop it right there because that's when I get triggered. If you're trying to get somebody to fight somebody, is there an easier way than pointing to them and saying, yo, they were talking about you, not somebody else. They were talking about you, right? Stephen A knows what he's doing by telling RG3, no, Ryan Clark was going at you. Don't use your family as a scapegoat, blah, blah, blah. What is that going to do other than incite further issues and further arguments? And this is what bothers me, is it's hidden and it's disguised as this think piece on interracial relationships or whatever, like something so pointless. But if you read between the lines, it's just creating a further issue. And this is why I'm like, man, I really wish people would call this out instead of bringing it, to the forefront for all the wrong reasons. Are you at least picking up the direction of where I'm trying to go with this in terms of nobody is calling these guys out on how sad and pathetic this is?
Yeah. And speaking of sad and pathetic, it almost sounds like Stephen A. Smith was taught life lessons by LeBron James and is trying to pass them on. Hey, I was told to leave family out of it. Now I'm going to say it too.
It's the only reason I get emotional about it is because Stephen A has a voice and he has a platform. And I would hope most people can't stand him. I don't know many two people that like him, but I know that he has influence.
He's so flippy floppy. How can flippy floppers be influential? That's sad.
Well, we always talk about holding people accountable, right? If you flip flop, you're not somebody that can be touted as somebody accountable. That's what sells these days. McZuggins, the worse their game, the more the oh wow, okay, yeah. Let me put this up here. The worse their game, the more the emphasis on non-basketball identity, and it's only loud after losses. That is a fantastic point. McZuggins, can I ask, when you say the worse their game, do you mean the worse they are as an individual basketball player, or the worse they played in that specific game, and this is the follow-up?
I think he means in general, as a player.
In general?
Like, hey, let me distract people with other shit.
So I try to think, I think about players that are known race baiters, and I think about their games. And immediately LeBron James comes to mind, right? As the premier race baiter. Anywhere from the racial words being put on his door to the whole him being mad because Phil Jackson said he's in a posse thing, and that turning into a whole thing. And I'm thinking to myself, not once have I ever heard the word posse and thought to myself, yo, this is a racist term. But this made it on to TV. Oh, shout out to Ben. Draymond. Yeah. Hold on. Thank you for the shout out.
Yeah, the Draymond
comments on stage.
Yeah, Draymond had to put the word black in his angry victimhood thing recently. And I said, just leave the color out, and you're angry man. You're an angry alien, you're an angry donkey, whatever species or planet you want to be from. Everything about you is angry. So don't think that adding the word black means that you're not angry anymore.
Well, because the funny thing is last time I checked, the NBA is 99.6% black, right? So isn't it a league full of angry black dudes? I mean, shouldn't you be angry when you play a sport? What is he talking about? Other than hiding behind a racial epithet because he's crazy and for whatever reason your team won't cut him.
You know what else we got? You know what else we got baited on by the media is the concern about the foreign players. Because I saw it again today, and somebody's talking about all the foreign players. And you know what? It was kind of like just gradually, naturally increasing, which is expected. You know, we had Vlade Divac back in the day, and as time goes on, it's just going to become more normal. If the media wasn't always talking about it, I think it would have just integrated. I mean, they're the ones telling us, oh my God, what the fuck's wrong with American players? And oh my God, look at all the European players. And oh, is it bad for the league that there's all these good foreign players? I'm like, just shut up and let people play basketball. And I don't think people would. I just realized today that I probably wouldn't have thought very much about it until, again, just like creating the LeBron versus Jordan GOAT debate that shouldn't exist. Now it's like, oh my God, what should we be concerned about? The foreign dominance? Like, no, you should be concerned that there isn't good basketball. And if any player can make it better basketball, then embrace it. But as you were pointing out the other day, you said Brian Windhorst was trying to justify Shea's foul baiting.
Yeah. He knows how to get to the line.
Right. People need to adjust to him, which in essence means you want defenders to just get the fuck out of the way so that there's no way he can initiate the contact and then fall down, which means that the game takes a step even further down instead of just holding a standard of what is supposed to happen and not happen.
So what you just pointed out is alarming because there's been a similar. Do you remember when LeBron James wasn't double dribbling, he was crab dribbling? Do you remember that whole movement?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the crab dribble? And James Harden's gather step, which was actually like 4 steps. They make the game worse. And then, like you said, they figure out this way to change the wording to make it seem like an advantage. SGA, he does foul bait. He flings his body to the ground. And if I'm on the Timberwolves, I'm getting mad at that because Anthony Edwards, I don't follow him closely. I don't see him flopping very often. And he when he's on his game, he goes to the paint a lot. Right? And it makes me nervous because if SGA is going to continue to be the face of the league, how they're playing basketball, how OKC's playing basketball is not sustainable. He's not always going to get that whistle. Do you remember when James Harden was going to the free throw line 18 times a game?
Yeah.
They put a stop to that after what, 1 season?
Maybe so Marty Moose. I did know Luke Longley was a superstar in Australia. I've gone to Australia, and Luke Longley seemed like a pretty chill guy. And when he was part of that No Bowl tour, I had some questions about it because it didn't seem like it matched his personality. And I talked to some people in Australia that attended that tour, and they said it was not what they billed it to be. And there wasn't much shit talking about the Bulls at all. But even the Australians were a little bit surprised and disappointed in Luke, even though he's a national hero, for even being a part of that. But yeah.
How dare you talk about Australian superstars and not mention Matthew Dellavedova?
Hey, Bogut, baby. Bogut.
Andrew Bogut.
The real difference in the 2016 finals was him going down.
The rim protector, yeah. You know what else? When Yao Ming got to the league,
there was no. You see what I mean? Do you see how many fucking foreign players there have been? And were we all fussing about it?
No. That's my point.
They told us to start fucking fussing about it, and we obeyed. Oh my God! What's wrong with American basketball? There's these international players. There's an entire another fucking planet available to provide players. Jesus Christ! Of course, there's going to be some.
Well, that goes back to the American hubris, the arrogance to think that we're supposed to be the best at everything all the time.
No, of course.
I'm so glad you said that.
Do you know how many people don't realize that there's a country outside of the United States because everything revolves around us?
Well, do you know how many people call Africa a country?
A lot.
There you go. Or how many people that, hey, I don't speak what's Mandarin? I speak Chinese. Like these are the people that we live around AOH.
Right.
And it's so interesting because when Yao Ming hit the scene, he was celebrated as he should have been because he wasn't great. But man, watching him and Shaq go back and forth, watching him and Tracy McGrady play together, it was great. And when people talk about LeBron James being an ambassador of the game, no, Yao Ming was an ambassador of the game. He took an international game and made it somehow even more internationally.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Everywhere. Now, granted, he was 7 feet 6 inches tall. But man, oh man, was it great watching him play. It was great being welcomed to the league. He led the league every year in all-star votes, and people made a joke about it, but they weren't threatened by it. And I think that's part of it is Yao Ming, as great as, and because I do think he was great. I think he was, before he got hurt, I think he was super usable. There was no threat that he was going to be the face of the league. Nor did anybody care. Now, when you have a great that just happens to not be black, everyone gets threatened by it. And that's why you have the Jokic tear downers and the freaking Luka denouncers and all that. But guess what? Yo, Greek freak, it's in the name.
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody talking about him being a European player that nobody can stand.
Venn mentioned in the comment they only started fussing if they start surpassing the Americans. So maybe Yao Ming wasn't ever seen as a true threat. They're like, oh, well, here's this freak of size coming out of China. We'll let people be entertained by this. It'll get a lot of viewership from China, but nobody's going to say that he's better than Americans. Maybe that's part of it. Ben also says it's a skill when you pump fake and force the defender to jump. But if you're just crashing into the defender and falling, that's terrible basketball. Yes, those are very different things. And I was about to ask people, do you remember that the league was supposed to start crashing down on or start stopping people from jumping into defenders? The shooter was not allowed to jump into the defender. They're still doing
Trae Young. Trae Young was the one who was getting away with that.
Well, just about everybody's still getting away with it. It's not supposed to be happening. Not only is it not supposed to be happening, they made a statement that they were going to crack down on it. Instead, shooters are still jumping into defenders and getting the calls.
Thank you for that burp. I appreciate it. That's better than your support. Well, that's like the flopping. It's supposed to be $5,000. It's supposed to be a $5,000 fine for a flop. And how many times have you seen that? Never. I can't even name I can't even think of the last time I saw somebody get fined for it. Anonymous moves. They took. You got it up there?
No. Go ahead.
They took hand checking from the defender and gave it to the ball handler. Yeah, it's
so true. Don't tell me it's not a completely different game when they've literally taken what one side had and gave it to the other side.
They did that in football too. And I don't know, it doesn't seem as damaging within football as it does with basketball, right? Because if I'm the defender, I already can't put my hand on you, right? And the second the offensive player feels a brush up against, he's going to fling himself to the ground. So if I'm the defender, I don't have very many chances of success in this situation. So it actually gives, if anything, this conversation makes me appreciate the hard-nosed defenders from back in the day even more, because you had to move left and right to stay in front of everybody, because the second hand checking got out the way, all you have is your lateral quickness, and that's it.
Let me shout out Justin Messenger, who provides the first super chat. I would love to have seen Lagarde 1 through 5 guard Yao. Yeah. No shit. What was he gonna do?
Shout out to Justin Messenger. Yeah.
I mean, Yao got the best of Shaq a few times.
He did. He did.
Finesse.
I think it would look like LeBron guarding Boban right now. Like I think that's what that would look like. Because
no. Boban does not have the finesse that Yao did.
No. LeBron's just that bad of a defender.
Oh.
Yeah, he'd make Boban look like a ballerina out there. Yao Ming had some great footwork. And when he shot like 89% from the free throw line too, which was great that's great for anybody, let alone a big man. And he worked great off the pick and roll with Tracy McGrady. And it was just really sad to not see those two get as far as they could have.
Was he 7'4" or even taller?
I thought he was 7'6", but 7'4" sounds right.
Unfortunately, the league is very inconsistent with what they list. So if I look it up, I'll probably be able to find both.
Well, Bronny James was listed at 6'4" when he got drafted.
And he is
6'1", though. 6'1", wow. 6'2", something like that. McZuggins, hard disagree. This isn't just an American audience thing. I think it follows the emphasis on social engagement over viewership. Major League Baseball banks on its international talent, and no one cares.
So he must be disagreeing with someone in the chat, because that sounds like he's agreeing with us. Or I don't know.
Yeah. What was that a response to? McZuggins. I'm curious.
So this Ryan Clark thing, RG3 thing, has been going on for weeks now. Is that what you told me?
This whole thing is brand new, but those two haven't liked each other for quite a long time. And I think, and
Ryan Clark a LeBron apologist?
He's flip flopped on both sides. Most recently, he's been anti-LeBron.
Really?
But a couple months ago, he was pretty pro LeBron's the GOAT. Dang, I had a point I was going to make. I'm tempted to not actually even go further into this part of it, because they also talked about this Marcellus Wiley and your boy. What's the dude? Gap was on his show. We always talk about black dude.
What show?
Black Republican. Scap is on it. Scap was on his show a couple times.
Whitlock
and Marcellus Wiley were talking about it, and I lasted about 30 seconds in, and I said, I can't take this anymore. It was too much for me, and I love picking this stuff apart, but it just gets reduced to Jerry Springer, like you said. But the difference is this isn't Jerry Springer AOH. This is real life. This is what's being reported on, and this is why I'm calling attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you never watched basketball before in your life and you turn this on and you're like, oh, I wonder what happened with that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese game. And you tune into the middle of that segment, you'd be like, what the hell are these guys talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But that is the norm. And very often you don't have anybody on the other side saying, yo, like, why are we talking about this? And this is why I keep wanting to bring it up, because eventually there's got to be someone on the other side of these desks saying, yo, you guys are sad for doing this. You're pathetic for doing this. And then you'll be the first person to talk about, Black Lives Matter or stop black on black crime. But then you'll show a highlight reel of Kobe getting two-pieced by Charlie Ward, or Shaq fighting Charles Barkley or something like. Well, that wasn't much of a fight, but like something that perpetuates the issue. You can't have it all ways.
I heard Stephen A. Smith was right back to sucking LeBron's cock. I think I haven't watched it yet, but Uncommon had a video. I saw the thumbnail, but I believe it. Like, Stephen A. Smith is such a coward, such a fake tough guy.
He swears on his podcast, AOH. You got to be tough if you swear. And you ever see the highlight of him boxing? You got to be tough. You got to be confident. I will say you have to be confident to grow your hair out like that. And you have to be confident to be videotaped hitting a punching bag or swinging at anything and letting that get out to the internet. You have to be a confident individual.
You mentioned his hair twice. Are you bitter? Are you jealous?
No, not at all. I'm good.
You don't like that hairline?
Who, his or mine?
His. Is that the middle of the head?
I need like a protractor or something. I can't really tell. But either way, it's inexcusable. You're a millionaire. Do something. Pick something. Marty Moose. Angel Reese is averaging 15 rebounds per game this season. Interesting. I'd be curious to see what her rebounds are compared to her shot output and her putbacks.
Yeah, that reminds me when we were watching Uncut Hoops' video yesterday. That was the one category that she was beating Caitlin Clark in. So is that what she is? Is that what she does? Is she like she's rebounder?
Right. She's a rebounder, and that's why the comparisons are silly.
Like, she better get 15 rebounds a game if that's what her game is. But again, I don't know.
Can you read a couple more comments? Give me a second.
Let's see. Justin Messenger says New York Post posted an article that said Ryan Clark publicly apologized for talking about RG3's wife. All right, we're making progress. Getting civilized. If McZuggan is responding to me, I was just, okay, I'm not getting into it. Angel Reese is averaging, okay, we saw that. Mark Cuban had an interesting comment the other day. Okay, and what was it? Stephen A. Smith dreams in IMAX.
That's funny. He is the first person I've ever seen that actually looks like his character on The Simpsons. Like whole head shape and everything. It's so accurate. Yeah. So to get off the race thing and just kind of be a little bit more positive. So who do you have? Who do you have tonight in tonight's game? How do you see that going?
Man, that's a good question. People really decided that New York was finished after blowing it as badly as they did, but New York still has a lot. New York didn't turn into a shit team, but I got to tell you, I slept on the Pacers all year. Maybe I haven't been paying enough attention to the Pacers. In other words, I'm not prepared to give a good answer. But I tell you what I keep seeing in my head is Toppin with that last dunk. That guy looked like a monster.
And he got fouled on that putback.
That's what I'm saying. Did he even know he got fouled?
I didn't even watch the follow through. I just saw him with his putback, and I'm like, yeah, that's against his whole team. That has to feel great, especially in a moment like that. I'd like to see the Knicks in the finals, and I made this joke the other day, but because I haven't seen them successful since Whoopi Goldberg was their coach, and it's such a storied franchise. But New Yorkers are crazy, and Knicks in the finals, I feel like they'll tear that city apart. Versus Indiana, where it's like, I think it's a cute story, but I can't imagine them in the I can't imagine them in the finals. So I don't know, because you know how the league tends to cater towards the bigger markets, right? But I don't think the league would want to see an OKC Indiana finals. Like, I think I don't, because they need star power, right? And when you think about star power, who's left? You got SGA, you got Anthony Edwards, Brunson. Oh man, is that it? Is that really it? That can't be it, right?
Now they're rushing to make up for lost time with Halliburton.
Do you think that's because of the whole him being overrated thing? Do you think he'd be getting all this positive press? Because I feel like he's been playing the same way all year.
If that's true, then that's amazing, because the league definitely slept on him. Because he played great.
What are you eating? Ramen?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to hear all the slurping and shit in the mic.
All right.
And I can see it in your beard. That being said, I am quickly really appreciating Halliburton for how he seems to be moving as a player, and how he's because he could have been bitter about the whole overrated thing, right? But he kind of just laughed it off, and he didn't have the whole public persona of looking upset and being mad at the world. Like, he didn't do any of that. He didn't do any of the narrative stuff that a LeBron James would do. He didn't leave the game early. He didn't leave at halftime. He didn't punch a whiteboard and break his hand or pout or any of that. He just took it in stride and said, all right, I'm overrated. Okay, cool. Well, watch what I do. Watch me dismantle the entire East. And the last time he got this much press, the last time he got this much attention was in the in-season tournament, which we all know is the greatest tournament, the greatest championship of all time. And people forget that Tyrese Halliburton was in the in-season tournament finals. And if you go by LeBron fans, that's commendable. So why are people so surprised that he's great now?
Well, everything that you said makes him sound like he represents the old school. It's like you get it done on the court.
Yes. And that's a great way to put it.
You keep your mouth shut and you get it done on the court. You don't run to a podcast and talk about being disrespected and whatever. And it goes back to, it's relatable to what I said earlier about how gracefully he handled not getting minutes in the Olympics. And he's handling this gracefully also. And it makes me think he's secure in himself. And I think he handled his post-game press conference quite nicely also, even though it was potentially an awkward moment because he did the choke sign.
Oh, yeah,
he did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he did the choking thing, which would have been pretty darn good if that had been a 3-pointer. And he's like, he handled it smoothly. He's like, yeah, man. I mean, it felt like the right time because it seemed like we won, and it wasn't. So that's a bummer, but I'll admit that I've been planning on using it. You know how many guys would be like, oh no, man, I didn't even think about it. It just came to me.
I'll do you one better. I wasn't doing a choke thing. I was checking my lymph nodes or something.
Sure, right. Just deny it
That's
entirely.
what they'll say. Yeah, I was making sure I wasn't my lymph nodes weren't swollen. You know, strive for greatness, strive for unswollen lymph nodes. It's old school is exactly the best way to put it. His post-game presser was a masterclass in how you handle what could have been so awkward. AOH said is such a good point because he could have went the road of just being this hated player, but he's like, okay, now I'm just going to ball out. And when you watch that play, he was going for the Knicks' throat. He brought that back out to the 3-point line. And he was like, no, we're done with this. And him having the guts to do that was just, that was so cool to see.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. And then it like nearly hit the roof of the building and went through. I kind of wish it had been a game winner.
I do too. I hate that Reggie Miller got shine because he shouldn't get shine ever. But I hope that eventually the choke is known more for him than it is Reggie Miller. That'll never happen. But it was nice to see. And again, he had an opportunity to be petty and he went the other route. And I think that deserves to be highlighted, to have character, to have a foundation to stand upon and not backtrack on every single thing you do.
I didn't pay much attention to him being voted as overrated, but did he retaliate or did he keep his mouth shut with that too?
Who?
Halliburton. Did he say anything at all about that?
I feel like he said something in passing about it being players' opinions or something like that, but he didn't make a thing of it. He didn't make an Instagram post with a picture of his feet in the ocean, talking about how he wishes people appreciated him.
Halliburton for face of the league. I'm saying it.
Thank you. I really think there should be the push. And again, he's in Indiana, so it probably won't happen because if Paul George in Indiana isn't going to be that. Okay, here's the question. Are you taking, and this is early, but are you taking Tyrese Halliburton now or Paul George in his height with the Pacers? Because to me, I'm taking Halliburton. Can I tell you why?
Sure.
Well, okay. Can you tell me why first, please?
Because I think Paul George is exactly what Paul George is. Something that was never going to come to fruition. He's soft on the inside.
Okay. It's a character thing. That's what I was thinking. Every time Paul George speaks now, it just further solidifies why the Pacers didn't win. He has I shouldn't say no. He appears to have very little character. And so much of what he does is a lot like LeBron and an excuse for why the teams he's been on haven't been successful. And eventually that gets old and tired. And if Indiana does get to the finals, I'm willing to bet you'll have a Paul George soundbite where he's saying, just like LeBron said, I taught the Pacers how to win because Paul George winning is the finals. I promise you that soundbite will happen if the Pacers get to the finals. You'll hear Paul George saying, well, me and Lance and the guys and Roy Hibbert and those guys. Yeah, we taught Indiana how to win. I'll bet you that place.
What an absurd thing to say. Do you want to take any callers today?
Yeah. Listen, yeah, I'd love to. I do want to hear what people have to say about the race stuff, but again, it's Friday, and this stuff's starting to set in. I'm willing to hear about anything.
When the callers call, let's see if they talk about race or basketball.
How do I post this thing? Hold on. Invite. All right, it is in there. Oh, also, let me tell you how petty I am. So, that the show, The Shop?
Yeah.
Right. So they have their own set of
where they pretend to get their haircut.
Right, exactly. So no, let me tell you why this is funny. They have their own line of barber stuff. I'm dead. And I was at Walmart yesterday and I was like, I should buy this stuff just so I can throw it away. But then, LeBron wins. But no, he has this whole line of shaving cream and scissors and beard cream. And I'm like, this is sad. You're going to die on this hill. Link's in the chat. The link is in the chat. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Monroe. Yeah. After the leg break. Yeah. Paul George had I don't know if it was the craziest injury I've ever seen in real time. Because I saw another leg break that was real nasty too. I forget the dude's name. Josh, he had a fro and he broke his leg coming down off of a jump. Josh something. Did you see that Paul George leg break?
Mm-hmm.
AOH. It was. But hey, pretty sure he got up. He wasn't rubbing his head and staring off into the sky. And
remember LeBron doing the crackhead Bob thing? Like it looked like his head was on fire. That was some of the weirdest shit I've ever seen.
Are you talking about this thing? Yeah. So he does that. Whenever you hit him. No, in the game.
Okay.
No, if you hit him on the top of his head, he goes like this. And I think it's a two-parter. I think he's rubbing the hair so the heat makes the glue stick more, but I also think he's trying to sell the call. And here's my thing, and this is why it's pathetic. Do you know how many people get hit in the head playing basketball? It's every time.
Yeah.
But he gets hit in just the right spot. You know, he gets hit in his medulla oblongata, I guess. And it's just in the right spot, and he fades away. All right, guys. Link is in. Wow, it's already been an hour and 15 minutes. Time flies. Link is in the chat if you want to call in and chat with us on this laid back Friday. We'll give it a couple more minutes here. But so
there's Rookie. Rookie's still in the chat. Aren't you the one that wanted to call in? Anyway,
82. Oh, that is. I forgot about. Yeah, Anonymous Moose. Thank you. Yeah, Paul George talking about 82 games is too much.
Yeah.
The is that in reference to when he was complaining about All-Star Weekend?
No, I think he was complaining about the requirement in order to get an accolade that 60 some games was too much, and then he complained about All-Star Weekend, and then he went on so far as to say he's bored because his assignment is too easy. Like he wants to play down with the bigs,
playing the five.
Yeah,
He's
a talker. You're a talker. I always think of the Hound from Game of Thrones, one of the best. Let's just get through. Let's just skip the talk and get to the fight.
Right. He had such a high ceiling is the thing. And that's what's so frustrating about him, because he's 6'8", but he could pull up from anywhere. And his handle was crazy. And he was a walking highlight, but he was missing like that it factor. Something about him was just missing, and that's why Indiana.
That's what I've always said. I had a friend who like stuck with Paul George forever, and I was like, take him forever, because he's always going to just be Paul George. He's like, oh, these numbers are nice. I'm like, take him and his numbers and enjoy yourselves. He's not going to do anything.
No, not what it matters. Not what it matters. And when he said, "Pay me what Kawhi gets," that's when I was done with him. For good.
Yeah, it's like you should not be concerned about what Kawhi gets.
No, two different cases altogether. Let's give this till like 5:40, 5:45, whatever. Keep talking, and then I'm gonna go settle in. I've got streets that need fighting.
Read Marty Moose's stat here. That's a pretty good stat.
Tyrese Halliburton is 5 for 6 when taking a shot to tie or take the lead in the final 90 seconds of the fourth or overtime this playoffs. That's tied for the most touch shots in a single postseason.
Who
did 97? 97.
Jordan.
Hey, who else would it be in 97? Because what's his face won Clutch Player of the Year, right? Brunson. I wonder where Halliburton came on that list, because he goes for the throat a lot. And again, I have a lot of respect for that. You know what I mean?
He came lower than LeBron. That's the world we live in.
Wait, no.
LeBron getting consideration for a clutch player.
Wait, that's not real, is it?
Oh, Kendrick Perkins put it out there.
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
No, it happened.
He said that?
Wow. Just take the opposite of reality and tell the world, and LeBron fans will start repeating it until they think it's supposed to be true.
What's a more outlandish statement, that or Kenny Smith having LeBron as the second best player in the league this season?
Oh my God, that's a good question. That's a tight competition between two absurdities. I guess Kenny Smith.
Yeah. And those guys are going to ESPN next season, right? That's going to be really interesting to see what that does in terms of their broadcasting and who they favor.
Yeah, replace the word interesting with a word that actually means something.
Pathetic?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be good. I think that we're going to be sad to see them at ESPN.
So my argument to that is this: from a content perspective, and maybe people are this dumb, and I hope they're not, but wouldn't you want to see people debate something, not just agree the entire time? Like, doesn't that make for better viewing?
Absolutely. But I think the TNT crew is already softening up. And if you take the trajectory that they're on and add ESPN to it, it might be better than what's currently on ESPN, but it'll still be worse than what we're accustomed to.
Because I've noticed that with Michael Wilbon also. He used to have a hard stance against LeBron, but as the seasons have gone, he's softened and stopped.
Yeah,
Tony, what's his face, has been steadfast. Oh, we got McZuggins.
Yeah, guess which one is on it? Guess which one gets to be on ESPN specials? Wilbon.
Shocker, right? Yeah, let's get McZuggins in here.
And look what else TNT keeps doing. TNT keeps bringing Draymond fucking Green on as a special guest. I mean, come on.
And they CGI his face on there too. What up, McZuggins?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How are you?
How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well. I wanted to throw one thing, kind of piggybacking a little bit off what you guys were talking just a second ago, and the last live a few days ago about Michael Jordan coming back to NBC. Is something I keep thinking about. I'm wondering the argument, the discussion seems to be mostly about what MJ will weigh in on these kinds of narratives and whether they'll try to suck him in to talk about that kind of stuff, or if he's going to throw kind of passive shade on pre-recorded stuff for all of these kinds of non-basketball things that have nothing to do with what's on the court that, as I said before, I think seem to always follow the big losses. So my question, my interest, at least something to think about, is I'm wondering if NBC actually sees the opportunity to go after the disillusioned fans, the people who mostly watch y'all's videos, trying to sort of outcompete ESPN before LeBron retires, before the complete takeover of ESPN. I wonder if they see it as ESPN being weak and the opportunity to steal all the old heads and make it about basketball and try to compete on that. Do you think they'll actually just avoid any of those kinds of narratives and always try to bring it back to basketball? Is that the hope?
Well, first, you make it sound like NBC executives have some sort of an emotional attachment to quality basketball, which could be true, but I mean, aren't we just talking about people who are looking at the numbers?
Well, not necessarily, but Michael Jordan does. And I feel like maybe I have a hard time believing he would sign on knowing that that's what they would want him to do.
Okay, so you're saying that they've had a very clear agreement in the negotiations of what is going to happen.
Well, not to get too technical, I'm not saying that that has happened. I just am wondering if that has happened. I'm wondering if that's part of the conversation. I'm wondering if that's a likelihood in order for Michael Jordan to sign on to something like that.
Well, see, this is one of the reasons that I don't think it's a winning situation for Jordan, because if he does what we want him to do, which is like call it like it is, a lot of people are going to call him a hater and just an old grouch. And if he doesn't criticize, if he plays it even, if he's nice and polite, then we're going to be disappointed.
I'm wondering if he just circumvents it at all, if he just doesn't feed into any of those narratives and talks about more the game and the decisions being done on the game and players and coaches and leadership and greatness and all that.
Does that include if somebody just said something absurd, should Jordan ignore it and just do his bit? Or are we going to be disappointed if he doesn't call out that person?
Well, I'm not necessarily arguing whether we should or shouldn't. I'm wondering if he will or won't at all. I'm wondering if he has made the choice to not do that, and that's the opportunity NBC thinks it has.
Exactly. What do you think he's going to do?
For my money, I would think that that's their play. I think that that's what they would pay all that for. I think they think there's a domestic audience that has checked out of the NBA, and that's the niche that they want to go after. And I think they won't breathe anything into the flames of these kinds of narratives. That's the only way, to me, that it makes sense for Michael Jordan to come into it. I think that's, the old music, the old intros, I think is all geared towards nostalgia to people who checked out because of all this nonsense.
That could be a big audience to try and gain back. That's going to be a big... Well, that's a good one. I don't know what to say. Speam, do you think it'll be hard to get those people back? Because sometimes I'm so bitter that I'm like, no, fuck the NBA forever. But let's be honest. I'm ready as soon as there's a good game. As soon as there's a good game, I'm like, okay, maybe there's hope.
I would like to hope, because I would like to hope that that's exactly what takes place. Is Jordan comes in and you see the traditional basketball fan come back. However, to AOH's point, NBC is going to be thinking about that bottom line, and they're going to ask themselves, is it easier to bring in old men yelling at clouds, or is it easier to bring in the TikTok crowd, the 15-second TikTok crowd that's just going to watch highlights, which is easier? And I feel like they're going to lean towards the easier money. But I think if Michael Jordan, my hero, ever allowed himself to fall into the narrative-based basketball, I think a small piece of me would die. I
think more than a small piece would die.
Okay, you're right.
That would be like the saddest thing in 50 years. That would be just the saddest thing in the world to see.
It would equate to him taking steroids to me. Because Jordan, what a lot of younger people don't realize or don't understand maybe is Jordan represents a lot more than basketball. He represents a time in sports where the alpha mentality was embraced and was pushed, and you work for what you get. And if you don't get it, you just keep working until you get it. He represented that, and that was a cultural movement that was beyond sport. Michael Jordan was bigger he was an actual basketball player that was bigger than basketball. And we haven't had that since Kobe, in my opinion. And even Kobe had to do a lot of brand reworking to even get to that point. So we really haven't had anything organic since Jordan, at least in my opinion. So if he, oh man, it would be a dark day if he falls into that trap. I just can't see it happening though. He would lose a lot. I think he would lose a lot of his fan base if that were to take place. But it's such an interesting point.
I know I read something about he's only agreed to do like pre-recorded stuff, like pre-taped stuff, no live commentary or anything.
Oh, really?
That's interesting.
That's something I read in one of the articles about it, but I don't know how official that is, or if that's a rumor or whatnot. But that's what I had heard.
Yeah, isn't that funny? $40 million for a pre-recorded script.
Well, everybody wanted to be like Mike. Nobody wants to be like this.
Nobody wants to be like LeBron, right? I think they're going to keep him on for anything LeBron related, because that's going to be a talking point every time. That's a ratings skyrocket.
I'd like to hope that he ends up, that everybody takes it as, this is my little parting shot. I'm hoping that the audience does it for them. I'm hoping that he just talks about being soft or rolling with the punches or getting up and trying again, like sort of, and we turn it, the audience turns it into passive shade on whatever's going on at ESPN. And that their hope is to try to draw people, to end up with the NBA on Peacock, with Michael Jordan. Everybody go subscribe to NBC. That's in an older demographic anyway. That's my hope. My hope is that they're trying to go after that niche, and Michael Jordan's going to keep it generalized, but it still applies to whatever noise ESPN is shouting about to go try and compete with Clutch. That's my hope. That's the most optimistic take I can possibly have.
You actually did a better job explaining what I was trying to explain, as AOH continued to cut me off when we first started. What I was trying to explain, the idea of showing the fans like this is the insanity.
Hey, don't cut him off, Duggins.
Right.
It's on purpose.
Well, with that long of a fucking pause between words, it's hard not to.
That's the red stripe talking. I forgive you.
Leave me out of this. I'm sorry. Continue, please.
No, we got, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, Yves Newman. I'm going to bring him on. McZuggins, you're welcome to hang out if you'd like, although AOH, he pushes.
Oh, no, but please finish your thought.
Pushes his friends away.
You guys are more into this.
Some of us are. No, if Jordan succumbs to the script, I can't even imagine that happening, if I'm being 100% honest. I know there are people in the chat saying they're going to feed him a script, and I do think that that's partially true. But I can't see him buying into the whole propaganda of the narrative-based basketball. I can't picture it. And if that happens, I refuse to believe reality is real. So I'll live in denial, like all the other LeBron fans, I guess.
Who is our new caller?
Yves? Am I saying that correctly?
Oh, hey. Newman? Yes, you said it right.
Thanks, y'all.
Yves Newman.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you for
yeah, man, I'm a big fan.
Appreciate you.
It's the first time I get to actually talk to you guys, so I'm really happy today. I just have 2 short questions. Like, first, I just want to know who you guys think is going to win the finals, especially with the playoff game being kind of like a complete opposite, right? The West is not as competitive as I anticipated to be, while the East game, like the way the Pacers won, is not a real indication as to which team is better. It was just one that happened to have a good lucky streak going on, and they took advantage of that. But like, I'm thinking Thunder are going to win, and I just want to know who you guys have.
Like now,
let me go first, real quick, AOH before. Yeah, sure. I see the Thunder winning. They've got the juice, they've got the momentum, they've got the ref's whistle. They do play defense. Chet Holmgren, who I was a small hater of in the beginning, is quickly growing on me, especially as just like this tall, lanky defender. And where I will disagree with is I think the Knicks-Pacers game was very telling in the sense of, man, the Knicks better tighten up.
Yeah, they ran the marathon.
6 miracle threes, but yeah, that made me nervous. But go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying that with the Pacers, they play so fast, but at the same time, if you get them under 100 points, I think they'll have a very hard time because they're so used to just going up and down the court and not having too much defensive resistance. So they trick their opponents into playing an offensive-oriented game, and that plays into their advantage. So for New York, their biggest problem is they have a short leash as far as like extending their players into their roster. And Tom Thibodeau doesn't know what rest means. Like, I don't know what's wrong with that guy. He thinks everybody can play like 40-plus minutes and just show up the next game and be at their best. Like, that's a huge problem for them. While the Pacers are like OKC, right? Where I'm seeing that these two teams have applied a different strategy that we haven't seen in years from now. Like, right? Like 7 players is the traditional way of handling your playoff roster. Wow, they're going with like 9 guys, and they're playing them consistently. They have chemistry, and I think teams like Minnesota and New York, they just don't have an answer for that. That's just what I see.
I mean, Kevin
AOH,
McLean is keeping me sober because I'm high on the Pacers all of a sudden, just because now I find them very likable. But it seems foolish to bet against the Thunder with their depth and talent. And as you said, Spain, probably the whistle. And as McLean just said, yeah, and the Pacers required a lot of things to go their way just to pull out that first one. But I'm going to say the Pacers just to be interesting. I want to see it happen. I want to see a great, big, juicy upset.
I don't think the league wants that. Like Speam mentioned before, I was just thinking about that. OKC and Indiana, the ratings would just be a complete shit show. But it'll be interesting for us basketball fans, right? Like we don't care about what ratings the NBA wants, but the Knicks.
You know how the league?
Oh, go ahead.
You know how the league wanted the Bird Magic thing to save the league, but Bird went to the Celtics. Well, what if Bird had gone to the Pacers, being an Indiana guy? Now that's a small market. That's a small market, but you still got the Magic versus Bird thing that they were depending on. Would that have been enough to make Indiana a big market?
You know what? It would, because their rivalry dates back to high school and in college. The way Larry Bird led his college, like Indiana State, like what have they done since Larry Bird? Like nothing, right? And he carried them to a national media that they've never reached before. Like up to this point, wow, Magic. He always had the charisma. So to me, it didn't matter where he went. He could have always been Magic. But as far as Indiana, they're like in the Midwest, and I find Midwest teams have a harder time reaching out to the coast, right? Like the West Coast and East Coast teams dominate as far as like media markets, and in the Midwest is more of a.
We're talking about Oklahoma. We're talking about Oklahoma.
Yeah,
going to the finals.
You know what? Yeah, but then again, during
in the past,
yeah, they got so much star power. Just like Speam saying, like they right off the bat, they got 3 amazing players who turn out to all be MVPs, and now they have like a 4th guy. Like that's
exactly.
Well, for Indiana, can you name me like who's Indiana's MVP? Like to me, Reggie Miller. I know Speed was hating on him, but like, yo, that's my dude, man. Like, like he's one of one. Like, even though him and Jordan had their rivalries, he's unmatchable. Like, even though Steph has done all this shooting stuff, Reggie was a killer, like in any way possible. And I think for Indiana, Ali Burton is helping.
I understand, Speam, why you don't like Reggie Miller as a commentator, but I'm surprised that you said you didn't even like him as a player.
No, because I couldn't stand him flailing around with his long, weird scarecrow arms, complaining all the time about stuff. And again, as a Bulls guy, it was just frustrating to see him get the better of Jordan here and there. He just seemed like an irritating person. And it's reflecting in every time he talks now. Also, Eves, you forgot Paul George was 3rd in MVP as a Pacer, so he should be your MVP.
I mean, he doesn't even count for me anymore. I mean, I have one of his shoes. I thought in Indiana he was really dope. Like I picked up like the PlayStation. You're a big shoe guy, so maybe you know.
I have those. PlayStation PG2.
Yeah,
you have those. Yes, I do.
I thought he had his moments, but then. Once he showed that he can't be a true franchise player, where he can lead his team by himself to further in the playoffs and handle the pressure of delivering, I think he always tried to be in the shadow of another star, and that diminished his value as far as being a franchise player. And I just want to go on to my second question. I'm glad that you brought something up. It's about the foul baiting. Like I find that the way the NBA is played, like you're not allowed to play defense. I find that all these players, they encroach onto the defensive player's space, make the contact, and they get the foul. And to me, they're saying, "Oh, we're bringing back this physical play of basketball." I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like anything the defender does is automatically punished, right? Like they can't do shit. Like they literally can't. Like a guy could be running full sprint down the court, bumps into you while you were staying in your space, and they call the foul. I find that to be just disgusting. It doesn't make basketball enjoyable to me. I love defense, especially when they're allowed to play in a physical manner without like constantly being called for just being in their right mind or space, right? Like, and Shea, I'm a Canadian, so I know he gets a lot of hate from Americans, but I think he's a great ambassador for basketball. He's from my hometown, Hamilton. And it's funny, we're actually sister cities with Pittsburgh. So it's a small little connection, right? Like, and he's from a
quality people, then obviously. Quality people.
Yeah, man. He's a good guy. So I never thought in my life anybody would come out from that town and make it to NBA, never mind an MVP. So I was really proud of that moment just to see him win. And I hope that more young players that are the new face of the NBA start winning these MVPs. Because I'm tired of seeing Jokic win it. I'm tired of hearing, "Oh, Luka should be MVP," and it hasn't even been 10 games into the season. Prove it, deliver, and you'll be recognized as like a legendary player like SGA is doing right now. That's all I have to say.
Can you hang out for a second? Because I want to cut back to something you said. You're not in a rush to go anywhere, are you?
Hey, did you learn French or English first growing up?
You can tell. French is my first language.
He speaks English more fluently than most basketball players that we have to watch on TV every day. So the Jokic, hearing about Jokic being an MVP, what's your objection to that? Well, actually, let me ask you a question. Let me put this in context. Is SGA overwhelmingly closer to an MVP than Jokic in your opinion? Like, was the voting fair to you? Because I think it was like 70-30.
To me, it was fair because, again, last year I thought SGA was, and this year he had to outright outperform Jokic, which you can't do today. Like, he dominates the ball like a point guard. He's a center, so he gets to rebound, and a great passer. So all his analytics are out of the chart, right? So everybody just automatically assumes, oh, because he does all these things, he should be MVP. Wow, to me, MVP means also you're the most valuable player. Can your team do nothing without you? OKC is a young team, and to me, they've shown, especially against the Nuggets, if SGA is not at his best, yeah, they can pick up the slack and provide some kind of offensive punch. But at the same time, his leadership is what has like glued them together, right? He always has all his players surrounding him, and he learned a lot from Chris Paul. I'm starting to see that over the years, right? Where he knows key moments of the game where to take over. Like there are certain young players, they don't do that. They play the same style. For him, it doesn't matter if he gets fouled 8 times, right? He's gonna know that if I put that pressure on you, I'm gonna get the advantage. While with Jokic, he has received so much praise, but I also find that in doing so, it has diminished the value of his teammates, like Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and they proved that. That's why I think it took so long for them to give out the MVP. I was like, yo, what's taking like so long to give it out? Because honestly, some people wanted to make Jokic the MVP, and I don't like having the playoffs to be included as a regular season award, but it showed their style of leadership, right? When Jokic was thinking about, okay, I need to put up all these stats, he had to also expose himself by letting other players on his team carry him. While SGA, no offense, if he doesn't score like 25 plus, I don't think OKC wins, even with all that talent that they have. While in Denver, you have Murray, you have Braun, who stepped up this year. Like I'm really proud of that guy. I'm a Kansas Jayhawks fan, so I always knew he had it in him. And they have to get rid of MPJ, but that's another guy that
you'd swap Brown for Dort or Jalen Williams?
I don't think I would swap him for a player that has no offensive punch, because like Dort, he's just all defense. And with Denver, remember they used to be like a defensive team, right? Like just before Mike Malone really started like getting these guys to shoot a lot more. Before they would average like 90 something points, and Lou Dort I think will revert them back to that, and that will weaken their position in the West. They need to continue being an offensive force in the West for them to be successful, and also for Jokic to keep getting his stats. And defense, Jokic doesn't play defense. Like he puts in effort, I'll give him that. But to me, MVP also have to play defense. Shea plays defense. And this year he did it at a much higher level than Jokic. And I think that just determined the MVP for me. Next year is a different story. He can come back and average 29, 11, and 15. I'm not sure. And he'll always be in the conversation because those numbers are just hard to match.
It's interesting how many things, even though you had good points, how many of them could be flipped and just put Jokic in there. Like, let's start with people were talking about Doncic should be MVP right at the beginning of the season. And at the beginning of this season, people were talking about Shea immediately, and we're also talking about voter fatigue. They put it in everyone's heads. You know what? Maybe we are tired of giving the same MVP. I mean, this talk started from the very beginning, no matter who's worthy of being the MVP. And I would say
AOH real quick. This talk has been happening since they gave Malone the MVP when it should have went to Jordan in 96. That was voter fatigue.
97.
Yeah.
97. Yeah, voter fatigue. They were tired of giving it to him. But go ahead. My bad.
Well, and then you said that the Thunder can't do much with SGA on the bench. That's definitely true with Denver and Jokic. There's probably a handful of times that Denver's done it without Jokic, but not more than a handful.
Yes and no. Like I think they had a winning record without him, or maybe one game below 500. They played pretty well this season when he was playing. Like, not every game, but they were capable of performing. And go ahead.
I've got a more
interesting one. Is SGA a foul merchant? Real quick. Is he a free throw merchant?
That's where I get kind of like mad with that term foul merchant. Like, to me, Jokic is also a foul merchant. The guy jerks his head.
I got to put you on the spot. Don't do the LeBron James fan things. Don't. Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, answer the question, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So, to me, you have to be able to score when it matters most. And if a player can manipulate your defensive position and put himself in a position where he can draw the foul, I wouldn't discourage him to do that. So if he's that good at it, they'll have to change the rules, just like you said they did with James Harden, right? I'm really surprised as to how they haven't really emphasized that more than it should be, because the last game, it was really bad. Like, there were some calls that even I didn't agree with. But a foul merchant, to me, just means you're a very well offensively skilled player. You have a polished game. You know where to step up, and where to stay, and you'll be fine. So even if he draws, even if he gets 18 free throws, to me, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't call him that. He's just an excellent basketball player, and you have to be able to stop that without fouling.
What were you going to say, AOH?
Oh, I thought a more interesting player swap would have been Brown for Caruso. What would you do there?
Oh, well, like trading MPJs, is that what you mean?
Just trade the players, swap the players.
For who?
Christian Brown for Caruso.
Oh, like if you put Brown on OKC, I'm not sure if you'd be as good, because you have to share the ball more. And I find that Denver, he's gotten to blossom over the last few years because KCP is not there anymore, and they have less perimeter players than they did when they won the championship. So he's been forced to step up, and that has allowed him to showcase his offensive skills. While in OKC, like they have a lot of guys even on their bench that are excellent players, right? Like, and they traded a few, like what's his name, Trey Mann in Charlotte. Like, look how he did. He did very good this year once they traded him, right? I find that they have a pecking order that they stick to. And Caruso's defense is much more important. If you put that on Denver, I think they do become a better team. But they'll have to bring in a reliable shooter to make up for the offensive production that Braun provides.
Braun's a 3-point specialist, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
He has a pretty good 3-ball. But I think you can make the argument that Caruso is OKC's best on-ball defender.
Yes, he is. And a large part of that is due to SGA not being able to play defense on the best player for the opposing team all the time, right? So he gets more exposure on that end. But at the same time, would you say that he's like reliable in offensive situations? To today's basketball games, very few teams can win those 90, low 90s and high 80 games. You need somebody that's a reliable shooter. And you can see Dort is getting exposed, right? He's shooting at a high clip during the regular season. And now that the playoffs have come around, people are able to study his habits, and he's not able to masquerade his weaknesses as before, where they can take so many attempts and he makes it look like he's improved offensively. But we all know, even when they play, remember when he was playing James Harden when he first came in the league? Everybody was so impressed, like, oh, wow, this guy is the next defensive superstar. But then he couldn't shoot. And that, to me, is a weakness in today's game. Because once we need you to make shots, everybody's going to focus on our best players. And if you can't shoot or you buckle under pressure, you become a liability. And between him and Caruso, it's great because they get to switch between the two, where if one is not doing that well, they'll put in the other to make up for it. And in Denver, they don't have that, right? They just have Braun, and I can't even name you half the players. Do you know any of the players on their bench? Watson and I forgot the other guy. I forgot his name. Like, I really don't know, right?
I think that's a fantastic example because I think of Austin Reeves when I think about players in the regular season that are touted as these threats, but then when defenses actually get consistent time to focus in on them, it's like, well, wait a second. Well, maybe they're not that great because now people are paying attention to them, right? It's like, you ever see that movie Shallow Hal?
No.
Okay. There's a thing in that movie where it's like you take two attractive women. I'm probably butchering this, but I think I'm getting the gist of it. You take two attractive women and one that's not attractive, and you put them together, and the one in the middle looks decent by comparison, by contrast. That's kind of like how Austin Reeves is. When you put him around other quote unquote greats, i.e., LeBron, Davis, what have you, he's going to look great. But when someone's actually paying attention to him, it's like, oh, wait a second. Now that we're paying attention to this dude, he's kind of a nobody, and that's what's happening. But the one thing I want to say is Monroe beat me to this because you were so busy giving your great point, and you're a fantastic addition to today. Way better than AOH, by the way. Thank you. I just want to say that.
You red stripe.
Yeah, the red stripe guy. Yeah, Monroe said an MVP that can't play defense. So you said out of your mouth, SGA can't guard the other team's best player. I'm not paraphrasing. You said that, right?
No, I said that they don't prefer that he does that. He can. Like, remember, he's very lanky and he's strong. For how skinny he is, he's a pretty strong guy. Like, because I watched him on the Olympic team, and he was a great defender. He knew how to shuffle his feet and which positions to take on the court. But again, he's relied on so much on offense that as perimeter defenders is going to exhaust you, right? Like, these guys aren't built like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, where they're on both sides of the court giving all effort, right? And I find that they prefer to save him for the third and fourth quarter where he needs to exhaust his offensive potential. And Dort and Caruso are much better perimeter defenders, but he is capable of doing it. I would say his defense is better than Jokic if we're comparing the two. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. You can't even put the two in the same sentence as far as I'm concerned. I don't think you can equate Jokic to anything, any defensive conversation. You know what I mean?
It's about that. That's gone. Like, yeah, you're right, Speam. You're absolutely right. Like, you can't equate it And you know when he got exposed really is again, I don't even like bringing this guy up, but Joel Embiid. When him and Joel Embiid play, it's very interesting. Like, have you watched a few of their games when they play?
You said Embiid and who?
Embiid and Jokic when they play each other.
I haven't seen Embiid play a basketball game in like 2 years.
Right. Yeah, I don't blame you because Embiid is always ducking them. That's in addition to he's always ducking them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, always. And to me, that's what I really don't like about these players today. They're very clandestine in their approach to basketball. Oh, I'm gonna hide here. I'm gonna talk like this on the media and pretend like I'm not doing that. We all can see through it. And with Embiid, what he does is he forces Jokic to follow him around the court, right? Like, you see, Jokic loves to hang down low and, potentially hope that somebody can drive in that's a small offensive player. And then he'll provide some help defense. While Embiid attacks him every time. And Giannis does the same thing too. And what ends up happening is you start to see his defensive weaknesses because he can't guard these guys, but he puts up great numbers and he knows how to lead his team on the other end, like on offense. So that makes up for it. So he tends to win. But like Embiid dropped like 40 on him. I don't know, yeah, like a crazy game where he dominated him. Like his MVP season, he just destroyed him. But then he's afraid of playing him in Denver because Joel Embiid, again, maybe doesn't want to be in the mile high air there and he only plays him in Philly. And I find that to be weak and really suspicious. I don't know how the NBA hasn't fined him for that because he's always hurt when they have to go to Denver. And I don't appreciate it. But he is a good player. And I hope that this year, when he comes back to Philly, that hopefully he's committed and doesn't flop around so much because I tend to find the way he plays and he's always falling on the ground is why he gets injured so often. Like I've never seen somebody big that falls like every 5 minutes or so. You see him on the ground. And
did you forget who Anthony Davis was?
Oh, yo, don't hit on my boy AD, man. Like,
did you? Because he learned all that from AD.
That's true. But AD, again, he's a different breed. I find that with him, he needed his own team. And hopefully with Cooper Flag, which was totally rigged. I can't believe they even...
Man, was it?
I was so pissed off, man. I could not believe that. And the fact that they're trying to convince everybody, oh, no, it's all by chance, it's random. It's like, no way. That's just crazy. You guys give him that. And he wasn't even happy. Did you see his face when they had the draft lottery?
Some of that, it seemed, because I did watch it. It seemed like performative in the sense of, I don't want to give away like it was like a poker face or something. You know what I mean? It was like, don't give off any ideas based on a reaction one way or the other.
True.
If I'm explaining that how I want to, and I want to return to something you said real quick. We have reached a time where when you listen to a Brian Windhorst and he says, it's not that LeBron's lazy on defense, it's that he knows where to pick his spots, where to conserve his energy. And over the years, we have now disguised laziness as energy conservation. Right. And I think you brought up the point. It was either about Embiid or Jokic. I can't remember which one, but that's what Embiid does. Not playing in Denver. You're ducking. You're ducking the what's the word I'm looking for? You're not the smoke. You're whatever the. Yeah, well, yeah, you're ducking the smoke because any pushback that you may receive, I'm just not going to try it. So if I'm LeBron, I'm not going to play defense because what if I get crossed over? What if I get blown by? What if I get dunked on? I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. Just like the dunk contest. I'm just not going to do it. There's no pushback.
It's so funny. It's really childish. Like I'm not a tall guy. I'm like 5'6", and I played basketball throughout high school, as the shortest guy on my team. But one of the things that I struggled with, like when I was younger, is it was getting rejected. It would always bring down my confidence. So I was like, oh wow, I'll never be good at the sport because I was short, right? Like, but then like over the years, the more I got comfortable just developing my skills, watching, especially Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was my guy, you know, like he was the blueprint for just teaching me basketball. And once I analyzed what he did, I was capable of maneuvering and contorting my body in certain ways that bigger guys just couldn't follow. They couldn't emulate those kind of movement, right? So they had a hard time defending it. And what I find with today's players is everybody wants to be safe. I don't want to get dunked on. I want to be Ben Simmons, have my big watch and car, pull up, wear my makeup while I'm being escorted into the arena. It's weird, right? Like it's female energy. That's what I find with a lot of these guys. They want the paycheck, but they don't want to put in the work as their predecessors did. And with the defense isn't sexy, right? Like if we think of like Bruce Bowen, Rashad Bell, and those kind of players, people will laugh today. Oh, who's that guy? He did nothing. He scored 6 points. He only did nothing. But if you watch them, you knew, wow, those guys were menaces. Like you don't want to deal with that guy. He's gonna ruin your game plan because he doesn't care about the lavishness that comes with being in the league, right? Like he's more about his integrity and playing to his strength. And I find today everybody wants to be an offensive superstar, and defense has become, a defensive oriented player has become an anomaly because you don't put up the sexy stats. You're called an Andre Drummond. You're not recognized as an all-star. Right, like Andre Drummond was really good on Detroit in the beginning, right? Like the league just did so much that he became obsolete. His skill set just didn't matter anymore. And I find today with the stretch game and trying to beat Steph Curry, that has ruined defense because remember all the rebounds, they're very long now. They take a three and the rebound goes all the way past the free throw line. So even a big man, like I don't know how some of them survive today. That's why they all become perimeter oriented players.
Well, that's also probably why they're winded also. In which so I want to say Allen Iverson is such a great example because when I was a junior in high school when I got my first pair of Iversons. And it was like one of the best days of my life because it was right around when the crossover became like a big thing and breaking dudes' ankles and all that. It was like such a big deal. And what people don't talk about is, AI was a hawk on defense too. Like he played the passing lanes for a small guy. He was physical and he boxed out and he had grit and all that stuff. And nobody talks about that. But this even further solidifies Jordan's greatness because defense was sexy with him. He played defense. And oh, by the way, was the best offensive player on the court. And that doesn't happen anymore. Now your defensive guys are Draymond Green. Well, that's the opposite of sexy. He doesn't get further away from sexy than that, right? Or I'd have to look at who else made first team defense, but they don't get a lot of, even the shot blockers. They don't get a lot of the press unless you're LeBron and you get a down blocker, a goaltend. That's not what sells tickets.
Who are the top 3 shot blockers? Do you know?
My guess is Greek, and currently, because I'm assuming Wembanyama is going to be still actively at the top.
Yeah, just for the season. For this season, I think Chet Holmgren is number 1.
Okay,
and I'm being honest, like I can't even name them all because they don't get any attention.
How many sneakers do you own from the greatest on-ball defender in the league? That doesn't sell.
Right, but right? Ben Wallace stole shoes. Remember his ugly ass shoes? People still bought them.
to be fair, that Detroit team was different. They were special. When your team consists best defensive team I've ever seen.
Just how they were cohesive, how they worked together. It was
big. Yes. Because I'll tell you right now, you mentioned Reggie Miller, and I do have a bias hate. However, Rip Hamilton took his blueprint and showed you how you can maybe do that and still be part of a great defense. People don't
that guy
talk
was
about
Steph
Rick Hamilton enough. Yes,
he was
Steph Curry before Steph Curry.
It was ridiculous. It's so funny because I can't believe I have to admit this, but like I am from Canada. I love the Raptors, but I'm also a huge Lakers fan. Kobe was my favorite player. And when I moved to Canada, because I didn't grow up there, I grew up in Europe. The first finals I ever watched was the 2004 finals. And I didn't know too much about the NBA, but I became a huge fan of the Lakers that year. And I remember my uncle was just laughing at me. He was telling me, "Oh yeah, they're going to lose. They're going to lose." And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh yeah, that team is going to beat them." And you know what? Like I was young, I almost was in tears because I couldn't believe how Shaq and Kobe lost to Detroit, right? But they had a different mentality where we want to snuff you. We anything you love to do, we'll take that away and we'll force you to play our game. Yep. And today, you see, you guys talked about the diversity of play. There's no such thing. All the players play the same today, right? Like great. Everybody wants to stretch the floor, and I find that has diminished the quality of the game. Where every night you can kind of predict, who's going to win, who's going to lose, just by how many threes they make, right? Look at Minnesota, just garbage play. Like, so that's what I loved about the Pistons, where you didn't know who's going to win them the game, but you have an idea it's going to be Chauncey and Rip. But Tayshaun Prince is like super underrated, right?
Tayshaun Prince, I forgot about Tayshaun Prince.
Yeah,
that dude had like a 9-foot wingspan.
Right, it was creepy, man. He was like a freaking alien. Like I
wow,
like Rasheed Wallace.
Rasheed Wallace is a psychopath. The fact that man played in high top Air Force Ones his entire career.
I don't know how
he's a psycho. Chauncey Billups doesn't get enough credit for being the leader of that team, because I feel like he only averaged like 19 points a game in that series. But you would never know it. And to your point, they got up under the Lakers' skin. They